Down in the wrecking yard, I met my true love. Down in the wrecking yard, I met my true love, called a wreck Chevrolet, which I see every day.
Hi, welcome to another episode of The Wrecking Yard. This one is going to be pretty special. I just got back from my northern sojourn to celebrate the legendary Stardust Cowboy's 70th trip around the sun. Man, what a fun time it was. The party was thrown in the town of Mankato, Minnesota, a place I've never been before, but I have to say it was great. The people there were wonderful. It was, I don't want to use the term Stepford. It seemed as though every single person that I encountered that weekend was in a good mood. I mean, it seemed like the happiest place on earth. I don't know, maybe if it was my imagination or maybe everybody I ran into was in a good mood that day, but it just seemed like every single person I encountered, every waitress, every clerk, even the police officers. The police officers were more than helpful. When we got lost on the way to Mankato because of a lot of road construction and a not very updated GPS. And that's not meant to be any sort of knock against police officers. I am not anti-police. I believe they are necessary. I believe there are many, many good police officers, and I do not want to start anything by what I just said. All I said was that when we stopped and asked for directions from 3 police officers who were enjoying their cup of coffee, they seemed more than happy to stop what they were doing and give us very detailed but very simple to follow directions on how to get out of the hellhole that was next to Mankato. Again, I apologize to whoever lives in that hellhole next to Mankato. Anyway, once we got there, it was fairly early in the morning. Oh, I should mention that I stopped in Chicago on the way up to pick up my old friend Phil Hundley, who anyone who's looked at the website will know as John Hundley. He had never met the legendary Stardust Cowboy. He had never seen him live, and it was just a very convenient trip for me to pick him up on my way up and drop him off on my way back. And he had a great time too. If you want to read about his experience, he's got a story on the website. You can go check it out. It'll be included on the page of the various legendary Stardust Cowboy items that I'm going to have on there, probably within the next day. It was such a great time, though. We met up with Norman, a.k.a. The Ledge, in the morning on Saturday, along with 2 people whom I never met, but had a little bit of contact with on the internet. And I'd like to say thank you to both Tim and Shelley, who were both absolutely wonderful hosts. Even though they weren't necessarily hosting me, they treated me great, took us out for breakfast at this really cool place called the Happy Chef. You'll be able to check out some pretty good pictures of Norman fooling around in front of their giant statue, again, if you go check out the website. And then later on Saturday afternoon, I recorded a podcast with Klaus Fluoride that you will never hear. Why, you ask? Well, it started out great.
Well, last night when we checked in, he says, yeah, the bar is only open till 5. So I called up and I said, well, I'm going to grab a beer before this thing. And then no, the bar is not going to be open till we don't know when.
And then, for some unknown reason, it started to sound like this.
I have an older brother and sister, and they started bringing back rock and roll. I remember Lovey Dovey by Bunny Paul was the first sort of, almost worst, but first sort of rock and roll thing that I heard. And then my brother got me Tutti Frutti. It was my first 45 that I got, and I got a 45 player, yeah. And then I just got totally swamped with Long Tall Sally, and then a whole lot of shaking going on, lots of Jerry Lee Lewis, and then Elvis. And then my parents hated it, but I remember seeing them on TV, and my mom finally being relaxed when she saw Jerry Lee Lewis come and sit down at the piano, because it was always very long, raunchy here at the piano.
So, I have no idea what happened. I checked all my equipment. Everything was fine and normal as it usually is, but for some reason, right in the middle of it, something went wrong, and I got a highly, well, I guess I would say a highly fucked up file, but if I want to say it in a more polite term, I guess I could say the file was corrupted. It's really sad, too, because we had a great talk. He told me a lot of stuff, related a lot of stories about the early days of the Dead Kennedys and what he was doing before and how things happened, and it's all lost. I'm not going to ask him to do it again right away because I had to sort of chase him a little bit to get him to do it this time, and I feel like it's kind of a hassle. I don't want to bug people. If I can ever do it again and he wants to, I hope we can, but I'm not gonna harass him into doing it, and I probably won't even be in the Bay Area anytime in the near future anyway. So unfortunately, that will become my first Great Lost podcast. From what I understand, this is fairly common with other podcasts that have occasionally, they'll get some sort of a, corrupted file, or it accidentally gets erased or whatever. I've just heard from other podcasters that, every once in a while something like this happens, and well, I guess I was due. But anyway, this is probably going to be the last podcast I put up for about a month or so, because I'm going to need to look into seeing what happened and trying to fix it, and because I certainly don't want it to happen again. So after this particular podcast, the podcasts are going to go on a short hiatus. The website will still have stuff to read, and we'll still update that. But as far as the podcasts are concerned, probably no more until mid to late November. I recorded this one actually several months ago when I was in San Jose to visit the Ledge. It was kind of weird because when I hadn't seen the Ledge in a while when I got there, so he was very talkative and very happy to see me. We went out to dinner with him and his friend Andrew Pijak, who is also on the podcast. Andrew's kind of the Ledge's best friend. He also sort of, I don't want to use the word minder because that sounds condescending, but he helps Norman out when he needs it, gives him advice. He's a good sounding board for Norman. They get along great. They hang out a lot, and I would have to say that Andrew and me would probably have a pretty good fist fight over who's the biggest legendary Stardust Cowboy fan in town. And he had a lot of stuff to add too, which is good, because as talkative as Norman was that night, the next morning we went out for breakfast before the podcast, and again he was like animated and wild and talkative and funny. And then when we got back to the place where we were recording the podcast, the minute we turned the recorder on, it's like he didn't shut down per se, but sometimes with the Ledge, instead of him volunteering things, you have to sort of pull them out of him. And this instantly turned into one of those times until about 30 or 35 minutes into the deal, he all of a sudden announced that he had to leave because he had to go see his chiropractor. So the actual interview with the Ledge is a little shorter than usual, but it is fleshed out with me and Andrew talking about our experiences with the Ledge, me talking about the movie that I made with him and what went down and how it came about and all the various weird stories that are connected with that. And then Andrew gave his opinion on a lot of things. And it actually turned out to be a pretty interesting hour of conversation with and about the Ledge. And I hope you think so too. Now, as far as the show in Mankato is concerned, wow. I mean, he played in this place called Hooligans, which looked like at one point it might have been like a TGI Fridays type place or something. Or maybe it still is. I don't know. Everybody there was nice. There was a beautiful, beautiful birthday cake, which you'll see a picture of on the side as well. And it might have been the hottest show I've ever seen the Ledge do, which is funny because all day long we were kind of joking, that the Ledge was going to bring the heat. The Ledge is going to bring the heat. And he did. He brought the heat. The one downside is that the chaps he had were somehow either not connected properly or they were too heavy or something, and they pulled his pants down within the first 3 minutes of the show, and he kept pulling them up, and they kept pulling them down, and finally he had to just remove them entirely during the show, which had one of the people who owned the place rush a message up to the stage that he'd better not get naked or else we'll lose our license. It was so fun, though. I mean, the band they told me they hadn't practiced in like a year and a half. And they were tight as a drum. They were loud. They were really raucous. A lot of energy. The Ledge came out, and he also had a lot of energy, especially for 70. Jesus Christ, for 70, that man is like a whirling Texas tornado, for want of a better term. One last note I'd like to make on this is that the place was packed. I mean, there was about 350 to 400 people there in what I would consider to be a fairly small town. Now, this tells me that despite what a lot of other people have told me, the legendary Stardust Cowboy can pull in a crowd if it's in a town that actually gives him some support. There's a radio station in town, WFMU, where both Tim and Shelley both put in time, and this radio station has given Norman a lot of support and a lot of exposure over the years, and because of it, boom, he had a show that looked like it was pretty close to being sold out. Funny thing was, it was a free show, and I found out later, or actually I found out earlier, that the reason it was a free show is because Minnesota has, I'll probably get this somewhat wrong, but Minnesota has something like an art tax where you pay an extra penny for some items, and what it amounts to is at the end of the year, if you're an artist and you don't have enough money to realize the project that you have in mind, you can ask the state of Minnesota, hey, I need some art money, and they may or may not give it to you. And that's exactly what happened here. The legendary Stardust Cowboy show, performance, airfare, everything was paid for by the state of Minnesota. And and the people involved didn't even try to make a profit. They just said, free show for everybody. And I can tell you that everybody had a good time. There was no walkouts after the show was over. And you'll see this if you go to the website. After the show was over, people were chasing Norman around, trying to get everything autographed. It was just a great, great birthday party for somebody. And I can tell you that Norman had a great time, that everybody in the place had a great time. And they were also selling some really, really nice posters and these really cool flexi discs that came inside these hand-painted Christmas cards with the Ledge reciting The Night Before Christmas. I think they have a lot of those left. If you should want one, drop me an email and I'll put you in contact with the folks that you need to be in contact with. Go to the website. If you go to the website, you can see the show. You can see the radio interview that he did the day of the show, and lots of pictures. So I just want to again thank Tim and Shelley for the absolutely wonderful weekend. I want to thank the Ledge for being the Ledge. I want to thank Klaus Fluoride, who was kind enough to put up with me, only to have the whole thing scuppered by shitty technology, apparently. That's enough from me. So here we go. Check it out. Here's my talk with the legendary Stardust Cowboy.
When Joey Myers has gone hog wild with Bab's mother in a bikini. Her mother used to be a professional model in Italy. That's where she's from. And Joey Myers' mother-in-law is from Italy too. I can't understand what she's saying. That not Texas accent, but the Italian accent.
Right.
Now then.
All right.
Question number one.
Now we've just brought in.
This is Jan Murray asking the questions. Hit her, Jan.
We've brought in the legendary Stardust Cowboy after our short talk about why we love him so much, and we are just going to start from here. What's been happening lately with you, Norman?
Well, I've been dancing around the Alamo under the moonlight, singing San Antonio Rose.
Well, let's start with way back, the first time I ever met you. Do you remember how that happened?
Well, with a letter you sent me in the mail.
Right, and then like the day we were leaving. I got your answer back, and it was this huge piece of paper that had the largest handwriting I'd ever seen, and it started out, "Howdy, partner." And I was like, okay, we gotta stop by and see him. So, yeah, I remember you were living with Joey Myers at the time, right?
No, I was Gary Stillings.
But Joey was there when I got there.
Yeah, we all agreed to meet and greet one another when you first came by.
Right. Now, when I met you at that point, I knew virtually nothing about you. There was no internet. There was no autobiographies floating around. There was nothing.
How did you hear about me then?
Well, that's a long story that I've already told Andrew at the beginning of this show. But it was mostly because some guy bought me that 45 of Paralyzed, and he says, "Here, this is right up your alley." And he gave it to me. And he was right. It was right up my alley.
So right up there, your alley with Long Tall Sally.
But it took until the Trash Can 45 for me to find you, because there was no address that I could find before that single to write you a letter. I don't think there was an address even on the first album.
If you climbed on the roof of your house, done this, you could probably hear me doing rebel yells.
Yeah, and I remember we were sitting there waiting for you to get home from work, and Joey was telling us these stories. We asked him about the laugh-in footage, and he said, "No, we don't have it. They won't give it to him." And that was really what I wanted.
Oh, you saw me on Laugh-In?
Well, no, we knew you were on Laugh-In, but nobody had seen it.
You weren't old enough to.
No.
You weren't old enough. That was before your time.
Yeah, that was. I would have been 7, and usually by the time Laugh-In came on, I had been sent to bed. So, and I remember.
How old were you when it came
7.
on? 7.
Yeah. And so I remember being very disappointed, because one of the things I was thinking about the whole trip was like, oh man, we could finally see this film footage of Laugh-In. He must have it. And then Joey said, no, he's tried. They won't give it to him. And that was right then and there. That was the first seed that got planted, where I said, I'm gonna find that footage. And then you came in the door, and the sun was shining behind you so bright that we couldn't actually see your face. You were just like this big shadow in the doorway, kind of like an old Western when the guy comes in the saloon door,
But I'm going to interrupt you here.
Okay.
Interject you here. You didn't know about the Rocket of Stardom album?
Oh no, I did, but there was no address to write you on there, or at least I didn't.
Well, when I was living in Las Vegas, and my P.O. box, when that came out in May 1984, every day for 2 solid years, I got fan letters from either record or music reviewers or strictly fans in the mail every single day. Mail came in from all over the world.
Well, you still get a lot of fan mail, don't you?
It's email nowadays, and I don't. To me, an electronic address, electronic letter, is not personal. Somebody takes the time, sit down with a piece of paper and either print or write in cursive writing a letter to me, fold it up, put it in an envelope, a self-adhesive envelope, and put on a self-adhesive stamp, because I'm a stamp collector, and address it to me. That is more personal than an electronic mail letter.
Well, I agree with you, but email sure is convenient. I mean, it's quick. You get your answer back quick. You don't have to wait a week to see what the other person has to say.
I'm not that big of a hurry. I grew up in an era everybody depended upon the mail.
Right.
The mailman. So therefore, I'm accustomed not to getting anything in a hurry, including my royalty checks.
Yeah, well, that's good. Now, well, just real quick while we're talking about this. So what you're saying is that if anybody writes you a letter, you're going to write them back. Is that what you're saying?
Yes.
Well, why don't you give your address right now, so in case someone's listening and they're thinking that just sounds like too good of a deal to pass up.
The legendary Stardust Cowboy, Post Office Box 730-742, San Jose, California, 95173.
All right, good.
It's right across the street from the Reed Hillview Airport.
All right. So you'll be getting some more fan mail here soon, I'm sure now. Now, so when you met us, I mean, what did you think? You're thinking, oh, what the heck are these guys doing here? Who are these idiots? Or what? I mean, you had to have some first thoughts when you saw us.
Yeah, the two idiots. Oh, wait a minute. I recently, the San Jose Board of Supervisors have voted me as, given me a board certification as a certified idiot. I'm the world's first certified idiot. I'm usually voted hobo of the year, but this year certified idiot of the year.
Right. Well, what I remember.
Hi, how you doing?
Is that you were very friendly, but I'm not sure I can quite get you to understand how mysterious of a figure you were to us, because you had a cult following in Indianapolis for many years who knew nothing about you, didn't know what you looked like, didn't know where you came from.
I look like Howard Jarvis.
And so that's one of the reasons why we brought the cameras. I just wanted to ask you a bunch of questions, just so personally I could have the information. And
I'll be darned, it's Howard Stern.
And then like 2 hours into the thing, my mind is reeling. I'm not going, oh my, there's such a story here, and I didn't realize it at all. Do you agree, Andrew? I mean, it's a story with a lot of points along the way that really add up.
Yeah, I got hooked in by the same song, which was played to me by Joey Myers, Ledge's longtime drummer, and you kind of want to know more at that point.
Yeah.
I was lucky enough to live in San Jose, where I could see him play. It didn't take too long before I saw the first show. And if the record doesn't get you, the live show is certainly going to get you.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. I mean, people cannot believe, and no offense, at your age, that you could put forth that much energy in a short burst of time. I mean, by the time your show's over, I would say the audience is just as tired as you are.
Yep.
Because it's like you're putting out this energy, they're putting this energy back to you, and it becomes a push and pull.
It's time to plug in the electric fan, let it cool me down.
Yeah, as long as they're not grabbing your pants, everything is fine. I know I've been to a couple of shows where they seem to
when I played at Gertie's Folk City, New York, there was a gal that was a fan of mine, young gal. She swiped my belt from right on my britches, because it said "Stamp Legendary Stardust Cowboy" on my belt.
Did you ever get it back?
Nope.
Really?
And I didn't have any. I was walking around the next week in streets of New York, no belt. I had to hold my britches up by my hands.
Now that was when you were playing with Ben Vaughn, right?
Oh, you remember him?
Yeah.
What? Lucky Seven?
I don't remember.
Third Rock from the Sun. He did the music.
Oh, that's right. Yeah. I talked to him, and he said he had a great time doing those shows. He said those were some of the most fun shows he ever played.
Well, at least his career took off, and mine didn't.
Yeah. As a matter of fact, I just saw he was playing a lot. Does he live out west here now?
L.A.
He does?
That's what Dinah Mercer said.
Okay, because when I talked to him, I thought that he lived in New York at the time. But I might be thinking of Billy Miller.
Oh, he died recently.
I know.
Well, I wrote his wife a letter, a sympathy letter, sent her a sympathy card, but she never did answer. Well, that's the reason why.
He had a lot of friends, so I bet she got a lot of mail.
What was the cause of death? What was his age?
I don't know and I don't remember, but I seem to remember that it was something. It wasn't sudden. It was something that took a while. So I think they knew it was coming.
Is she still going to operate her run Norton Records?
Yeah. See, I don't know. I have no idea. I never met her. I only met him.
They're in Brooklyn.
Yeah. So. Yeah, and I know that Ben Vaughn lives out west here. Maybe I'll try to talk to him next time I'm in L.A. He was always a fun guy to talk to. He's very knowledgeable. That dude's got an encyclopedia inside his head.
Like Joey Myers.
Yeah, he just knows all this stuff, and he was always really friendly, and he had nothing but nice things to say about you. He said he really liked playing with you, those shows at Gertie's Folk City. So, well, anyway, when I made the movie, it just seemed like 10 minutes after we said, okay, it's done, that all this stuff started happening all of a sudden. It was almost like we shouldn't have even stopped making it at all. We should have just put it on pause and waited for all this other stuff to happen. Do you remember, like, almost immediately after it was finished, we got the announcement about David Bowie covering Gemini Spaceship, and then poof, all of a sudden we were invited to play the Meltdown Festival.
Meltdown.
Yeah, the Meltdown Festival in London with Daniel Johnson.
You would have to mention his name.
Yeah, you know, I don't remember interacting with him too much. He didn't seem to be very socially outgoing, and I understand why. You know, I think we ended up talking to his dad more than we ended up talking to him, and he was telling us about that airplane story where he threw the keys out the window, and but
I told Tim Lynn this morning on the telephone at KMSU, Mankato, Minnesota, that Tony Philpott is in town. He said, "Really? They're excited about Tony Philpott and all the stuff he's doing."
I wouldn't imagine anybody in Minneapolis even knows who I am.
Mankato.
Oh, yeah.
That's about 85 miles southwest of Minneapolis, near the Minneapolis airport.
Somehow Minnesota is a major ledge fan base hub.
Hub for the Midwest.
Maybe because of your Nordic roots, perhaps?
Swedish roots.
Yeah.
It's, outside of the San Francisco area and Europe, I would put Minnesota as a strong third.
Really?
Well,
even ahead of Australia?
On par with Australia.
Really? Because I always heard that Australia was sort of like the international hotbed of ledge action. I heard they had legendary Stardust Cowboy conventions down there.
They did, but I think in recent years they've kind of slipped a little bit.
I haven't had a chance to swim that far anymore.
Oh.
But anyway.
But there are some strong fans. Stan Jarin is a regular contributor from Australia.
Yeah, I've talked to him.
He's a really neat guy. Posts stuff on Facebook and has a lot of cool stories. He was a former president of the Australian legendary Stardust Cowboy fan club.
Right. Now, I know when you played down there, you made quite a splash. Is that correct?
Well, I think I did.
Didn't you say there were some police officers who coming after you the next day? And go ahead and tell that story.
I was walking down the streets of Melbourne, right there in front of a sunny 7-Eleven in Melbourne, Australia, of all places. The 7-Elevens are strung from Melbourne to Stockholm and back. The police car stopped. There's 2 policemen there. I said, "Uh-oh, they're going to arrest me." There's a guy walking with me, and he said, I saw you on TV, ABC TV the other day, Australian Broadcasting Corporation. I would like to have your autograph. There was a big crowd gathered around us.
Right.
Well, I gave him my autograph.
Now, were you wearing
Flash bulbs are popping everywhere.
Were you wearing one of your colorful jackets at the time?
Yep, my jean jacket.
You didn't lose it on that tour, did you?
No, I lost my my buckskin coat.
Is that what it was? I knew. I thought that you lost a coat down there.
Shredded leather sewed on the sides.
Right.
What's that called?
Fringe.
Fringe. Like fringe benefits.
Yeah.
And if anybody's got one, send it to me. I wear a medium.
Yeah, you've gotten a lot of fan clothing in the past, right? I mean, people have made you coats and stuff and shirts and whatnot.
And it disappeared as quickly as they got them.
I know. Well, you know, we gave one of them away.
And some old gal, remember in Chicago, the Lounge Act, she tried to take my drawers off.
Yes, I do remember that clearly.
What?
more clearly than I wish to, I think.
But you didn't have a smartphone.
I remember it's a good thing, too, because I don't think any of us were feeling too smart.
I'm smarter than a smartphone. I got those drawers up faster than a Kakalika's whiskers.
So, okay, so like I say, after I finished the movie, it just seemed like a bunch of stuff started happening all of a sudden, boom, boom, boom. After the Meltdown Festival, we came back.
5 minutes to go.
Not to what?
The cutoff time.
Oh dear, we've only been going for 16 minutes. I like to keep them about an hour or so if I can.
No, not an hour.
Oh man.
Hour? We can do it over the phone.
Oh, we can't do it over the phone. I'm not set up to do it over the phone.
You're not able to stay on the phone 30 minutes, 25.
Well, no, I don't have the equipment to record on the phone.
Oh, record on the phone.
Yeah, because this way it sounds better, and also this way if I'm talking to someone and I can see their face, then I know if I'm pissing them off, and I can stop asking certain questions and pull out.
I got a rubber face like Mr. Dewey.
Can you reschedule your chiropractor?
No. My back won't kick out of gear. Won't kick into gear, rather.
Okay, so
and traffic gets rather thick.
Right. Okay, so after the Meltdown Festival came the Highline Festival was after we met David Bowie. Is that correct? Meeting David Bowie was between the two festivals.
We met David Bowie Wednesday night, August the 14th, 2002.
Right.
Just after we'd been to London for the Meltdown Festival 2 months before.
Right. Because
what Highline Ballroom came May the 15th, 10 years ago.
Mm-hmm.
What year is this? 1979, year the space shuttle takes off. Is that we're still in 1979?
No.
I must be in a twilight zone.
You must be. But anyway, so I remember when we met David Bowie, we weren't really on the list, but we talked our way in. And I remember you were in your full get-up. I think you had your hat and a really nice jacket and some boots. And I remember all these kids at this show just sort of like staring as we walked by, like going, who is that?
David Bowie's road manager said if we'd have known you were coming, David Bowie would have rehearsed Gemini spaceship.
Right, that's what he said. And I remember he took us to that table, and he was very happy we were there. He was saying, man.
And he gave us free coffee because it was cold.
Oh, free food and everything. He said,
I didn't have any free food. All I had was coffee.
He said, help yourself, and he pointed toward the buffet. But
well, a couple of Doritos for me, and that's it.
But I remember we were sitting at this table. He was very happy we were there. He said David Bowie was really happy that we were there. And then I remember Moby kind of just walked over and he circled our table really slow. Because
Moby Dick was there?
He didn't know who you were, but he desperately wanted to know who you were, so he walked around the table slow.
Kind of like little Jimmy Dickens.
Yeah, trying to figure out who you were, and then he just
little
sort of wandered
Jimmy
off.
Dickens, Grand Ole Opry, he can figure out who I was too.
I think he must have found somebody to ask. So now, Andrew, you and the Ledge hang out quite a bit. What do you guys do for fun?
We go to Tom's Depot for lunch.
Yeah, it's this little Americana diner in Los Altos.
Used to be an old train station.
Right, converted from the train station to a burger joint. Been there for years.
Been there for decades.
We get the turkey burger, oatmeal.
Is this the place where everyone is named Maria?
Yeah, that's the place where I get to do a flip flop on my tummy. I take those buttermilk flapjacks and I just flip them and flop them over my tummy.
Right.
And the owner's name
is Maria.
Is also Maria.
All right.
Yeah. Maria.
It seems
the only one girl that I fell in love with. Maria.
Okay, I want to get down to some hard questions here.
Hard rock questions, boys.
The first day I met you.
Go get them, Ernest Tubbs.
You told me you were working on a new song called "Making Love in a Phone Booth."
That That was Babs, Barney, and me. We went from a phone booth, we went to a hot tub for two.
I don't think you want to be naming names, but I want to know where this song is. I've been waiting patiently for 30 plus years for making love in a phone booth.
No. It was included in the lyrics of Standing in a Trash Can.
Really? You incorporated it into another song?
Yeah.
Well, you never told me that.
But I sing it so raunchy you can't understand the words on purpose.
Okay, all right.
That's that part.
Well, I have another question that somebody else wanted me to ask you. Now, when you stopped off in Dallas, Fort Worth, after you left Lubbock, on your way to the Tonight Show, at that time, the Tonight Show was in New York, right? It didn't move to L.A. until '73.
Yep.
So did you intentionally go the wrong direction?
No, there was a lady named Winnie.
Okay.
That was a friend of my grandmother's, and she wanted to ride down there to Dallas to drop me off, and she gave me gas money, drop her off near Dallas at another friend's house.
Okay.
So that's how I wound up down in Dallas.
Oh.
And I went around Dallas looking for venues to perform at. I had my jean jacket on. Oh, Dallas, as uptown doesn't have country and western places to entertain. You got to go to Fort Worth, boy. So she told me how to get the Dallas Fort Worth Turnpike, and I went on down that Dallas Fort Worth Turnpike, and I started zipping to Cowtown and playing with all kinds of bands around there, and that's a gist of the story.
All right, yeah. They wanted me to ask that, and I after all these years.
The New York Times?
Yeah, that's it. It was the New York Times. They called me before I left, and they gave me a list of very important questions that I needed to get to the bottom of.
So that Donald Trump can invite me to the White House, paralyze him.
Oh, well, I'm not in charge of guessing.
Well, if I get a free ticket, I'm going. Because I've never been in. I've only been in the White House when Ronald Reagan was been up by the fence around the White House, and Ronald Reagan was there.
Well, let's try to keep this about you.
Oh,
tell me about this new song that you've been working on that you're excited about.
It's called. I'm not going to give any titles away because somebody might steal it. Steal the title to come out with a song on a record or recording before me.
Well, I wouldn't be too paranoid about it. You know, there's about
the
100 songs called "Sail Away," and I don't think they've heard each other.
The song is called "Looking for Rainbows."
Well, if you say the name of the song, then you've proved that you thought of it first.
That's correct.
It's got to be copyrighted first. Then I got, and for the next 28 years, I got title to it.
All right. Well, okay. Without mentioning the name of the song, then
That's it.
Tell me about it.
It's about me walking down the sidewalk, looking up in the sky, clouds and raining, light rain. I'm looking for a rainbow.
So it's not the same song
It's
you
like-
mentioned earlier.
And it's
but,
kind of simple, fluffy song like Burt Bacharach.
Right. You were saying that it was a departure
Right.
from your normal material.
Yeah, that is.
Right. And you were describing it at breakfast today with much more detail. That's what I'm trying to get you to do now.
No.
You were talking about getting a string section, about recording it in a proper way.
Oh, you mean You Kiss the Sun?
Yeah, the song you didn't want to give the title out to. That's that one.
I just gave away the title. It's already been written and copyrighted by me.
All right, that's what I was talking about.
Back in '69. Well, I got so many darn tunes out there, it's hard to keep them all straight.
Yeah, except for Making Love in the Phone Booth, which seems to have fallen by the wayside.
They don't have phone booths anymore. You have to go to London to find
Yeah, I know.
Shirley Booth there.
But okay, like I say, give me the same details about this new song that you gave me at breakfast today. That's what I'm trying to pull out of you.
It's about, keep pulling, you might break a string.
Well, because this morning you were very animated to tell me that you were excited about a new project that's unlike your old projects.
I wrote this when I was at the Cellar in Fort Worth. The Cellar in Fort Worth was upstairs.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, now that's where Joe Ely performed at. He performed at all the Cellars.
Uh-huh.
The guy in Kilpatrick and ran for mayor of Fort Worth, there was his Time Life magazine, The Cellar.
Mm-hmm.
cellar, and listening to the music and those balls that swing around with mirrors on them and
Right.
the lights flash. What are they called?
Mirror balls.
Oh, anybody can figure that out.
Disco balls.
Oh, yeah, I've heard them
That's
called
before
that too.
disco came around.
Yeah. They were very big back then.
And so I just came up with the idea for You Kiss the Sun.
Right.
And I just, in the next few days, I played it over my mind, just like Tokyo.
And you got it notarized, or you got it written out as music,
On the
right?
sheet music, yes.
Right.
Musical score. I thought
That's
that
what
was
I
an
meant.
interesting story.
The musical score, done by Mr. Adams on his piano in
Right.
his living room. The living room on the west side of Fort Worth. His wife was watching from the kitchen. He knocked it out in about 30 minutes for $28.
Right. Now, are we talking about maybe a 45 at some point, or is there a new album in the works?
There's a new album in the works called The Legendary Stardust Cowboy dedicates his album to Buddy Holly, and I will be singing That'll Be the Day.
Really?
Yeah.
You're not just telling me something, are you?
No.
'Cause you do.
I
that
got to get the
sometimes.
rest of the band to go along with me.
Oh, right.
So we have to go to Lubbock for a recording.
All right. Well, tell me about some of these new records that have just come out recently.
It's just new records that are like Munster.
Right. I know they're compilations of older material, but a lot of that stuff I know hasn't been out before, or it hasn't been all in the same place before.
No.
So just
It's countries where I've never been before.
No. I mean the songs on the record. Some of them are ones that have not been included together before.
You're
you
wearing me
showed
out.
me-
My back is killing me. You're wearing me out.
You showed me those albums yesterday. They were very deluxe, very nice looking editions.
Deluxe.
Yeah. So why don't we talk about those at least a little bit, so that
That calls for another drink.
all right. So because we want people out there to know that you have new things out, and we want them to know where they can get them.
You can get them at Amazon.
Right.
Amazon.
Tell me about the Get Hip record, because that came as a
Get
surprise.
Get Hip record was released on my record label,
Uh-huh.
Impetus Records, September 2016.
Right.
2016.
Now this was quite a long time after they first talked to you. I remember them contacting us like in the 90s, right?
That was 95.
That's what I thought. It sure
I
took.
got my $1,000 advance and bought a brand new TV, and the TV played out before I got my album.
And they didn't record or release it until now, like 2016.
Yeah.
Wow, that's a long.
Greg owns Get Hip.
Yeah, that's a long wait.
That down in Pittsburgh.
I don't think Pink Floyd took that much time between records.
It's a great record, It's an
All
12-inch
the
LP.
T-Bone Burnett produced all the songs.
Right.
Everything's Getting Bigger, Boy, Our Love.
Yeah.
And Kiss and Run, written by Bobby Scale from Savannah, Georgia.
Right. So that record includes all three of the original Mercury singles, correct?
Yep.
Which if you don't get them that way, they're almost impossible to find as 45.
Yeah, you have to go to gethip.com.
Yeah. But now some of those same songs plus other songs are also available on another album that came out around the same time, correct?
Yeah. About the time I get this turkey burped up. Turkey sandwich burped up.
All right.
The records will be covered with an inch thick of dust.
Well, we got to give them a little bit of shout out too. So get the name of that record is what?
Down in the Wrecking Yard.
I think he's talking about Launchpad Favorites.
I am talking about Launchpad Favorites.
Oh,
See,
that's
I'm trying to get you
that's on
to say these things.
Meryl Streep Records. I was singing about her.
So
I just say the first thing that comes to my mind because I cannot really remember. Does anybody else out in the audience have attention hyperactive deficit disorder? I said it wrong. I can't even remember that. Attention deficit hyperactive disorder. I got it badly. Well, when I'm on stage, yes.
right, and that's
And
helpful
not
on
trip
stage.
over my spurs.
Right. So the Launchpad Favorites. Now that has does that also include all the Mercury singles or just some of them?
It does include the Mercury singles. It's a double LP.
Right.
There's quite a bit of material on there.
And it's career spanning, right?
It is.
Was any of the Rocket to Stardom stuff on there?
Yes.
So Jim was okay with licensing that stuff out, or does it?
He wasn't even around.
Yeah.
I think he died.
He died last year, right? Was it last year, the year before?
No, last year.
Last year.
I heard it was March of last year.
Okay.
Yeah, we were unable to contact.
He was 65.
The record company doesn't exist anymore. Amazing
He
Records.
sold that to a friend of his.
Mm.
I met his friend back in June 1981.
Uh-huh.
His friend was staying in a hotel. He was in bed with his girlfriend, and they were smoking weed back then. His parents bought a large piece of land out there they used for a ranch,
Uh-huh.
and a developer bought the land from them, and it split up 3 different ways. His mother, himself, and his brother. Each got $10 million apiece. Jim Yanaway was trying to get him to underwrite the financing of my Rocket to Stardom album,
Mm-hmm.
but his girlfriend talked him out of it, which is a story of my life.
Yeah, I know. It always seems like just as luck is right around the corner, something happens, and that's sad because
Luck is not around the corner. Babs is. Babsy, Wabsy, baby, this one is for you.
But actually, why don't we while we're thinking about it, why don't we send out a message to anybody who might have known Jim Yanaway or any member of his family to let them know
He's a
that
crook.
we weren't going to say that. We're going to say that we would really love it if his collection still exists, that we maybe have a shot at the stuff that is Norman related, legendary. He had a large amount of posters.
Memorabilia, alleged memorabilia.
Right. He had all those posters. He had those paper mache animals, which
Joey
I assume
Myers.
were made for you.
Joey Myers has a lot of posters from
Right.
Europe of mine that I can't get back, so include him a bunch so he can turn those over. He's going to jail.
Who is?
Joey Myers
What for?
for not giving me back my posters and my family tree. Family tree in a binder.
He's your archivist.
Yeah.
Baloney!
I think he's keeping it safe for you. I don't think he's taking it. So
I'll never see that in daylight again.
well, you still have a drummer. That's that. You look at the bright side.
No, I think he's drummed out.
All right. So,
No drumsticks left.
all right.
The
So,
fans have been clamoring for a live show. It's been about a year.
since you played live, really?
No. Be 2 years in July.
2 years. I was under the impression that you were putting in at least a couple shows a year there for a while. Is that,
No, you got your imagination working overtime.
That must be it. That must be it. But because I follow you from a distance on your Facebook page, and I know every once in a while I say, Ledge is playing, 1 of 2 shows this year.
Due
Blah.
to the the nighttime job I got, I'm going to have to cancel my August 26th show at Mankato this summer. Was going to take off 2 weeks, but with my job, they don't have anybody to replace me, and I've got to be there or I lose my job.
Yeah, you got to pay the bills first.
Because I haven't signed on with Sony Records yet, where I can financially take off and hit the road, financially quit all the jobs I'm working and hit the road on a permanent basis.
Right.
Yeah.
Although, the road will wear you out, though. You say I'm wearing you out just talking to you. The road can
Oh,
really wear you out.
Well, I get a good old shot of Coca-Cola, I'm up and running again.
All right. Okay.
I'm exhausted. I burned out, but I should have kept my mouth shut at Bill's Cafe.
You want some Coca-Cola?
No, I'm shot already.
Oh. Well,
That'll burn a hole in the nail.
all right. Well, we got like 35 minutes here. Me and you,
Sure you
when
got
we
that?
get together, we'll add on about 15 minutes to it, and that'll make it about an hour. But I just want to make sure that you say everything that you mean to say or want to get out there. I'm just trying to make sure that we cover all your bases. Oh, what about these new guys? We haven't even talked about the new movie. He's dropping. He's dropping.
Yeah, there's a documentary film.
Or actually, there's two, isn't there?
No, there's just...
Well, counting the Mike Judge.
Yeah, that's more of a comedy interpretation.
I say just screw the whole works. Forget about it.
An animated... the Mike Judge project is an animated comedy interpretation of true ledge stories, I would say. And the caffeine crash...
Yeah. I could talk better when I'm lying down. Put me on the psychiatrist's couch.
All right. Well, we'll talk about these movies a little bit, and then we'll just fade it out. But so you said the Mike Judge thing was going to be aired in the fall, right?
September.
It's a half-hour an episode of an animated series. It's going to be on HBO.
Hopefully.
Yeah.
Cinemax.
Cinemax, that's right.
Okay.
And the name of the series, do you remember it was...
Willie Nelson. There was one about Willie Nelson.
Wasn't it like Legends of Country Music or something like that?
It was like Tales from the...
Crypt, no.
No. Oh,
yeah.
It was,
Well, I got a message.
Tales from the Tour Bus. Was that it?
I guess.
Something like that.
Okay.
I know it was Chris Christopherson, I think, was one episode. Maybe Waylon Jennings.
Well, that's in good company.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'd be happy just for that.
You know,
we're pretty excited about it.
we just passed April 30th about last week.
Right.
That was Willie Nelson's birthday.
Yep, and he's still with us.
Well, how old was he? About 83?
I think 82 or 83, yeah. Okay, now, and then we have another movie coming out that's going to actually be probably a fairly professionally done affair. I've talked to the three guys.
I don't mind doing the movie. There's one thing after doing the movie that is more important than making the movie.
Which is?
That is getting enough money together for worldwide promotion. It's got to be promoted very well.
Right.
Heavily promoted, or nobody's going to go to the theater to see it. Nobody's going to stream it on Netflix, off Netflix. It's got to be one page from Time Magazine. It's got to be advertised in the New York Times, everywhere.
Right.
All over the world. And for the soldiers that are fighting for us in Baghdad, they got to get it too.
Yeah, and also...
You can't have a successful movie if it's not advertised. Nobody knows it's there.
Yeah, well, we also got to get the money to buy that laugh-in footage too, which is still way more than I know I have.
Oh, they forgot it. They forgot about it. The statute of limitations will run out.
I would hope so. If that were the case, I would just post it on YouTube and say the hell with it.
It was on there for a long time.
I know it kept getting taken down. They have algorithms that somehow match something to something else, and if it's something that's been taken off, then they look into it. Now, just real quick, these three guys that are going to be doing this movie, you've met with them? They're nice guys.
Met with them at the Giants ballpark.
Yeah, I saw the footage that they had so far. It looked good.
The trailer was
very professional. Is this you saying goodbye?
Yep.
All right, well, say goodbye to your fans.
Bye, fans! Put batteries in electric fans so solar cells are running out.
So you're heading to the chiropractor now?
Yeah, if I don't break myself!
All right.
Well,
like I say,
here, you got this on tape?
Yeah, well,
rolling.
If you fall, we've got it.
Oh, gosh. I can straddle a horse better than this.
Hey, Norman, I think we should have you come back later in the day. Get your errands out of the way.
No, I won't be able. I won't be available.
Well, you got to get some sleep. Get some shut-eye.
I got up at 5:20 this morning. I still had a hangover from my sleeping pills.
Can you slip back. Am I? Let me get up.
Well, can I climb over this?
Well, I'll get up. I'm not an immovable object.
I wish I had Babs here to
Make
help
sure
me.
he's got your phone number.
I need Babs!
Yeah, he's got it. He called me.
Oh, okay.
I need Babs.
And I've got his
Help
cell
me.
phone number too, so.
Yeah, I think when you get some sleep, Norman, you'll feel like a new man.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'll leave it up to you.
How this open up so easy? Oh, it's greasy.
Yeah.
This won't open.
Just
I'm not slick enough to open it up.
turn the knob and pull.
Oh,
Nice and easy.
oh. Sorry. I'm the most happiest cowboy that ever rode the range.
Yeah, let me get that.
I'm sorry.
Try turning it to the left.
Well, I'm not a left winger.
Let's see here.
Combination.
Is that locked, is it?
You can't get it. Oh, that one's locked. Oh, there you go, make it, Tony. Tiger.
All right.
Tiger.
It was locked.
Oh, okay.
All right, let me just stop this real quick and start it again.
Especially with a video camera on him.
Yeah.
He thinks, oh, I'm on stage, when he really isn't. And he won't answer a direct question.
Yeah, I think that he just, like I said, I just basically watched him just drain, and then he hit that wall. He
Right.
just hit that wall. All right, so anyway, we're going to start this show out talking with me and Andrew. Pronounce your name correctly.
P-Jack.
P-Jack, all right. And I would say without any sort of bragging rights whatsoever that we probably have the two biggest legendary Stardust Cowboy fans in the world in the same room. Is that correct?
Absolutely.
Yeah, because I have been a big fan since about 1980. Big enough fan to spend a lot of money. And you basically are just not only a big fan, but also you sort of help keep Norman on the straight and narrow. Is that correct?
Yeah, it's as straight and narrow as possible.
Right.
Because he's lives in kind of his own dimension,
Yeah.
which is a good thing, because by him doing that kind of reminds us that we don't really need to be stuck in a one-dimensional, two or even three-dimensional world.
Right.
That you can kind of turn your life into a piece of magic very easily, and we're only bound by our own, I guess, inhibitions. But he kind of rewrote the whole rule book on life.
Right. Well,
Maybe done unconsciously, I don't know.
Well, let's go back, because everybody remembers the first time you heard Paralyzed. Where were you and what were you doing?
I was at Joey Meyer's house/museum.
Mhm.
Joey pretty much
Ah,
was
yeah, I've seen it.
a walking museum, and he had a jukebox in his living room. And it was his birthday party, I believe. And Ledge was on his way over,
Mm-hmm.
and so we were talking about him. That was the first time I met him, actually.
So you heard him and met him the same day, the first time?
That is correct.
Wow, that's a double punch right there.
Because I've known Joey since the mid-'80s.
Mhm.
And Joey said, oh, this friend of mine's coming over, you got to hear his record. We heard it on the jukebox. I go, wow, that's pretty far out, And it sinks in, I wasn't immediately a lifelong fan, but it really set the hooks in me.
Sure.
Like, I really want to talk to this guy. And he came over, and it was really cool. He was just kind of a soft-spoken guy from Texas, from Lubbock, Texas.
He's surprisingly soft-spoken for as loud as he can be when he's on stage.
Right. I would call him manic.
Yes.
Manic, and add your own word after that, and it'll fit.
Right.
But
Manic on stage and maybe maniacally shy in person.
Right. Until he gets to know you a bit, then he opens up.
Right.
But he's very quiet and polite around people he doesn't know too well. Yeah, it's still very interesting. So after that day, I started going to his shows
Mhm.
in San Jose.
Right.
And then that sealed the deal.
Oh yeah, you see him live, and you know, and you're going to be in the fan club, the metaphorical fan club or the actual fan club, either one. I remember the first time I saw him. I remember thinking, man, this guy's in his 60s, and he's putting it out just like a 20-year-old. You know, I mean, he's energetic from beginning to end. He's constantly moving. He's always dancing or playing the guitar or messing around with the bugle. I mean, he's a roiling pot of energy, apparently, until you get him in front of a microphone to talk.
Yeah. Yeah, it's astounding. And then he shows that they're never the same.
No.
You think he's not really following a set program. He just kind of feeds off the vibe of the room, the vibe off the people. I mean, yeah, he'll always play the bugle if he remembers to bring it. And there's things he'll always do, but the style and feel, you know, you never get bored going to a lead show.
No.
Because there's always something that he does that's never been done before by him or anyone.
Sure.
You know, he kind of surprised us all when he smashed his guitar over the monitor at the Burger Boogaloo Festival.
Now, did he do that for effect, or was he truly mad at the instrument?
I'm not sure. It was built to his specifications.
Oh.
He did say, well, I think I needed a new guitar. But I don't know, you know. I think he took one swing and cracked it, and at that point he realized, well, it's cracked, I might as well go all the way.
Right.
You know, it's not a big deal. I thought it was kind of fun, actually.
Commitment to his art.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Now, my story with him is quite a bit different and a little more drawn out, but and I don't know if I've ever told you any of this stuff or not, but it was 1980, and a friend of mine named Kevin Burris handed me this 45, and he just said, here, this is right up your alley. And I looked at it, and it had the word cowboy in it. At that time, country music was as far away from what I was thinking about as possible. I was Mr. Punk Rock at the time, you know. And I said, well, you know, I don't listen to a lot of country. I don't know. And he says, just play it. And I was like, all right. And I took it home, and I kind of threw it in a stack, you know, and just sort of let it sit there for a while. And every time I'd see this guy, he'd go, did you play that song yet? And I was like, oh, I'm sorry, I forgot. I'll get around to it. And finally, I got tired of him asking me. And one night, I was like, oh, let's get this over with. So next time, I'll tell him. I heard it. So I put it on, and I was using headphones at the time because I didn't want to bother everyone else in the house. And I turned it up. And man, I tell you, I must have listened to that thing 20 times in a row. Just like, you know, and I think maybe around the 10th or 11th time, I was thinking, oh my God, what does the other side sound like? I flipped it over, and it didn't sound that much different, just a little slower. And but you know, you could hear him talk on it, and you're like going, oh, so that's what he sounds like, you know. But see, this is before the internet. There's no picture sleeve. There's, you know, I actually went to the library at one point and looked up Legendary Stardust Cowboy. I found a couple snippets here and there, but no pictures. So several years went by. And I still didn't know what this guy looked like, but I was obsessed with this single. I went to where this guy bought it, and I bought all the rest of them that they had, and I gave them away to my friends. So a couple of years goes by, and I see my uncle, the one who's kind of my musical mentor to a certain degree, and I said, hey, have you ever heard of this Legendary Stardust Cowboy guy? And he goes, hold on a second. He reaches up in his closet, and he pulls out this portrait he did of the Ledge for an art class in high school.
Wow.
Yeah, so we had this connection and we didn't even know it. And then he told me the story that's in the film about the guy who would play it in the morning to wake everybody up before he'd give their morning announcements. A couple years goes by again. Still, I've never seen a picture of him. I know nothing about him. I mean, I literally know nothing. I don't even know he's been on Laugh-In at this point. And I'm ordering records for the store that I'm working at. And the guy says, you know, blah, 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 okay, I'll take 2 of that, blah, 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 okay, I'll take 2 of that. And then the guy goes, you guys don't do much with country, do you? And I was like, no, not really. And he goes, well, we got this thing here, it's new, it's kind of crazy. He says, the Legendary Stardust Cowboy, any interest in that? And I was like, huh. I said, does it have a picture? Does it have a picture of him on there? And I said, okay, put 10 of them in a box and send them overnight. So he because I knew I could sell one to every person I'd given that 45 to, and I did.
What
They were all
album was
gone. Rocket to Stardom.
Yeah.
So I get it, and I'm ripping into that box thinking, okay, I can finally see what this guy looks like. I open it up, and there's that saturated red cover where you can barely tell his facial features. And I'm like going, damn it. I turn it over, and the picture in the back, there's one where he's on the horse, and his head's bowed down like that, and it's almost completely shadowed out.
Right.
You know, there was no good picture of him on that record. And I was like, oh man, now I still don't really know what he looks like. A couple of years later, I'm up in Canada, and I'm at a record convention, and I'm at this table that has a ton of 45s on it, and I'm not the least bit interested in anything this guy has on this table. I'm waiting to get to the next table, which is kind of swarmed with people. So I'm just kind of idly flipping, flip, 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 flip. And I looked, I said, legendary stuff. And it was the My Underwear Froze to the Clothesline back with standing in a trash can thinking about you. And I looked at it and I was like, because it had a very clear picture on the front, that very clear drawing, and then the back was that close-up portrait. It was like I had two pictures of him. Now I knew what he looked like. And I think I made some sort of a sound or something. I think I would have, or something. And the guy behind the counter goes, oh, that thing? You can have it. He gave it to me. So at this point, I'm starting to think that maybe the stars are starting to align or something at this point. I mean, Norman is this thing that keeps popping up, you know? And then a friend of mine, my best friend, Woody, Michael, the guy who worked in the film with me, he got a new car. It was a Hyundai. And he had like 2 weeks off of work. And he goes, you know what? I got a new car. I got 2 weeks off. Let's take a road trip. Let's go here, go there. I had never driven out to the desert before. We went to Universal and all this stuff. And I said, hey, you know, this legendary Stardust Cowboy guy, I got his address. He lives out west. Could we visit him? And he was like, sure, we got 2 weeks. What the hell? So I wrote Norman this letter. I told him everything I just told you, like probably a 5 or 6 page letter explaining, you know, who I was and why I was a big fan and this and that. And the day we left, I said, hey, let me swing by my post office box real quick and see if I got any mail. So I go and I get my mail. It's a huge envelope with that big writing on it. I'm sure you've seen it.
Right, gold marker.
Yes. He signed it with a gold marker. I open it up and there's, howdy, partner, come on over, blah, 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 blah. And I was like, look, we can go visit him. And that was the beginning of the movie right there, because I recorded a 2-hour conversation with both him and Joey Myers. And by the time I got done talking with both of them, I mean, it just became plainly obvious to me that there was this really great story just sitting there, and nobody was paying attention to it at all. You know, and that's what started my sort of saga, 20-plus year saga of making a movie about him that never actually came out. And you know why it came out too, and I don't know you know why it didn't come out, partially because I couldn't afford to get a laugh in what they wanted for that footage.
Right.
But secondly, and this is a time that I really agree with what T-Bone Burnett said, and he said if you're going to have a proper documentary, the story arc should start, you know, with him saying, see ya, I'm going to go be on the Tonight Show, and it really has to end with him finally getting on there after all these years. And there was just no way that I could work that out, you know. I mean, I didn't know anybody.
Right.
And like I said, you know, you only get one chance to make a first impression. If you go up there and they tag you as some sort of a nut job, you'll never get back in to see them again. And so I just kept waiting till I met the right person or met the right person who knew the right person, somebody that I could tell the story to that would make them go, you know, yeah, he should be on the Tonight Show after all these years. You know, he should have been on back then. He didn't because of a fluke. You know, we should get him on there now. And it would be like a triumphant story of him, you know, persevering after all these years. You know, I always thought, man, what if I could get footage in the green room? What if like George Clooney and Ann Coulter are back there in the green room with the ledge? Right. You know, what would that be like? You know, or whatever. So, and because we were never able to get that accomplished, and to afford the laugh-in footage, the movie just sort of got completed in a way that I wasn't 100% happy with, and then it just sat. You know, and I know Norman is disappointed. You know, I'm disappointed too. But what I'm really doing is I'm hoping that these new guys have their shit together and can actually put something together that's going to help Norman. Because Norman's right. He should maybe not touring nonstop, but he should be getting enough road work that he can live on it. You know?
Right.
I mean, there's people like you know Deke Dickerson, right?
I do.
That guy. He's not constantly on the road, but he plays a lot of shows, and he plays enough that he's able to make it his income.
Right.
And that's what I'd like to see Norman do. I'd like him to be able to make his art his income.
Yeah, that's a good analogy. Deke is definitely not a mainstream musician, artist. When you see his shows, he's just amazing.
Oh, I've seen him several times. I saw the Dave and Deke combo 4 times.
Okay, I've seen them.
Yeah.
Before.
Him and Dave together are so tight. It's like they're both operating on one brain or something. Some of the tightest shows I've ever seen. And then I've seen him solo a couple times. He's always great, always.
Yeah, astounding talent. So yeah, that's a good analogy.
And one of my very favorite guitar players. One of my very favorite. You know, he's very tasteful. He's very clean. And yet, you know, when the time comes to rip it up, he knows when that time is, and he'll rip it up and then go back to. You know,
right.
He's just a really tasteful player, I think.
Yeah, and songwriter too.
Oh yeah,
his stuff's a lot of fun.
Yeah,
it's just a fun show, you know. And I say the same about Ledge. It's just a lot of fun.
Mm-hmm. Now I couldn't get a straight answer from him earlier. Are they working on a new album?
The only album in the works, because a lot of stuff came out in 2015,
mm-hmm.
the end of last year.
Right.
The double LP. On Munster Records, which was a year in the making.
Mm-hmm.
That was a real project driven by Munster, and we basically teamed up with their production people and just decided we were going to make the best Ledge record of all time.
Yeah.
And a big part of that was including the lyrics, which had only been attempted by EM Records from Japan.
Mm-hmm.
But where they kind of dropped the ball is, if you look at their lyric sheets, there's a lot of question marks for words and phrases that they couldn't figure out. They just put in a question mark. So,
she sure makes a fella bestow. Did they get that one correct?
Yeah, that was easy. There's some that are just screams and you know he's saying something there, and it's great, but you're not sure. So
right.
With the Munster album, having Ledge handy, where once a week I would play a phrase on the record player or a snippet from a MP3,
right,
and say, you know, what did you say there? He goes, I don't know. That was 20 years ago or 30 years ago. But eventually he would be able to remember it.
Right.
And in the end, we had this body of work, these lyrics that read like just pure cowboy poetry.
Right.
Or space cowboy poetry. You know, in fact, when Joey saw the lyrics written out like that with a nice background, he immediately had the idea, like, oh, we should release this as like just a book of poetry, you know, just Ledge's lyrics.
Oh yeah.
It's a different experience, you know. If you read Paralyzed as if it was a poem, it's really enjoyable, but at a different level than when you're listening to the record.
Sure. Well, you know, when I first heard that record, it never occurred to me in a million years that it was a love song. You know, and then you get the words together and you realize he's singing this ode to his, you know, to his love. You know, I mean,
yeah, there's a story in there.
Yeah. You know, I mean, he's talking about this woman that makes him paralyzed with love. You know, and you would never guess that by hearing it. You know, and that's what I like about the Ledges. He'll offer two different sides of something that maybe don't go together, but when he puts them together, the way he delivers it, it makes sense.
Yeah, totally agree. For years, fans wrote in saying, are you actually singing something, or are those just random words and screams? And it took a long time with the internet, to kind of settle the mystery. Yes,
right.
There are words that paralyzed, and not only that, but it's a love ballad.
Yeah.
Basically, like you just said. And a lot of his songs are that way. Linda's one, which I really like, which is basically a love ballad. You know, this Indian woman, and he slips into her teepee late at night for
Right.
a romantic tryst, and it's just great stuff.
Now, the album, the Launchpad Favorites, how does it compare? There was one that came out a few years earlier, like in France, or Cherry Red.
Oh,
was
Cherry
that
Red
it?
Records.
What was that one called?
It was the legendary Stardust Cowboy and Anthology.
It was 2 discs, right? And it had a lot of unreleased stuff on there too, like Hot Tub Teddy and
Yes.
Nelson Mandela and Santa Barbara.
Right. There was a special recording session just for some fresh tracks
Uh-huh.
for that album. Helter Skelter. Hocus Pocus.
Right.
Hocus Pocus, let me focus on your face. Which I think is a great opening line for a song. There's a Doors cover on there, Riding on the Storm,
Right.
which is interesting. And there's probably at least another half dozen fresh tracks
Yeah.
that are on that album. And along with the Mercury stuff, and along with the Amazing Records stuff
Right.
from the Rocket to Stardom album, and the Norton Records, Spider Records. What else? Well, it's an anthology, pretty
Right.
much. It covered just about everything. So with the Munster, we didn't want to repeat that. We did want it on vinyl
Mm-hmm.
because people are more interested in vinyl now. There's more of an opportunity for artwork. With a double LP, we've got all these 12-inch by 12-inch squares to put photos and lyrics, and just make it a really cool audio-visual experience.
Well, that Launchpad Favorites, that album he showed me last night was beautiful. I mean, it was not cheaply made. It looks like they really put some effort into it. And the fact that it was a gatefold, it's got all that information in there. I mean, in my early days, I would have killed for that information, for any of that information, because, I mean, could you imagine him just being this mysterious figure for years that we knew nothing about, nothing whatsoever. Actually, there's another story, too. I don't know if I told you this, but my uncle, who was a big Ledge fan, back in '68, actually went to Mercury Records in Chicago and asked, he says, do you have any promotional photographs or any sort of information on the legendary Stardust Cowboy? And they refused to admit that he was on their label.
Wow, I didn't know that.
Yes, they said, sir, there's nobody on our label by that name. And there was, of course, but I think when the whole thing was over, I think Mercury tried to shove it underneath the rug and just sort of forget about it, because both Ledge and T-Bone both told me that they recorded an album.
Yes.
And that master tape, or he said there was an acetate pressed of it at one point. He said he doesn't know where it is, and nobody knows where it is, but there was a Mercury album recorded with him and T-Bone Burnett.
Yes, the Lost Album. Joey Myers and I frequently talk about it and hope that it surfaces. But it was supposedly from the same recording sessions that the original Paralyzed was from.
Right. Yeah, they both told me they recorded for a good chunk of that day.
Right. A lot of songs were recorded that day, and we only get to really hear, I think, three of them.
Yeah, like Who's Knocking on My Door, Paralyzed.
Right. And I took a trip on Gemini Spaceship.
I think so, yeah.
It was on one of those. There was 3 Mercury 7-inches released.
Right.
6 sides. And some of those B-sides were written by Ledge's one-time manager, Major Bill Smith, because he owned the publishing rights.
Right.
So he just wanted to make more money for himself and less for Ledge. So obviously that relationship didn't last long.
Well, he was, of all the people that I contacted when I was making that movie, he was the least pleasant person to deal with. And I mean that with all my heart. He was the least pleasant person to deal with. Because, I mean, he strung us along like crazy. I mean, because before we went down there, I talked to him on the phone about once a week for a couple of months. He'd call me up, he'd ask me, hey, what you doing, blah, 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 how's that movie coming, blah, blah, blah. And I said, okay, Mage, we're going to come down, and, because everything was, I know that the Ledge didn't like some of these people, But I made it a point to be nice to them because I frankly wanted their input and maybe needed whatever material they might be sitting on. So, I said, okay, Mage, we're coming down there on the weekend of the 26th or whatever it was. And I says, you going to be ready to talk? He goes, oh yeah, I'm going to tell you all sorts of stuff. And I'm like, okay, great. And the minute we got to Texas, he was like, well, I don't know about this. I'm watching basketball. Call me back at 4.
Wow.
So, we call him back at 4, and he's going like, well, I've been thinking about this. I don't think your movie sounds all that interesting. Why don't you do it about me? He literally just came right. There was no pretension about it. He came right out and said it. He said, that movie should be about me. And I said, well, we've already started this. I said, we plan on having a nice chunk of the movie in there about you and about your exploits and things you've done and how you got to where you are now. And I said, it'll be complimentary. Everything will be fine. And, well, if you guys aren't going to do it about me, I think I'm just going to bow out. And that was it. We went all the way down to Dallas, Fort Worth for that first day. Complete waste.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think he's a textbook megalomaniac.
Oh yeah, he was messed up. I mean, everybody told us. You heard the story on the movie what T-Bone said about him retiring as a colonel or a major, or retiring as a major. It's just.
I think it was he retired as a sergeant, but some loophole.
Yeah, he was major for a day because his commanding officer either left or died, and so they were forced to retire him at that rank which he held, the highest rank that he held. So, yeah, and nobody had a nice word to say about him. Nobody did. And I said, I'm going to do it anyway. I'm going to contact him because if you can get him to talk, I'm sure it'll be a great, counterpoint to it all. But it just didn't happen. But everybody to a man told us, do not contact Chip Whitmore. Everybody. So we never did.
Even Ledge, I think, is, when he mentions Chip, he just sounds like, I think he was the guy that even the Major Bill was afraid of.
Yeah, everybody was afraid of him because, his mom was like the district attorney of Dallas or something like that. But not only that, several people told me, and I hope he never listens to this if he's still alive, but several people told me that he was the type of person that if he thought you crossed him, it wouldn't stop him for a half a second to have you beat up.
Yeah, I think he carried a gun. That's what Norman told me.
Yeah, and he had that. There's that story that people told me about his court case down there. You remember that whole story?
I don't think I know that one.
Okay, well, you know that he was on trial for murder for hire, right?
I believe it.
Yeah. What happened was, and this is the story I was told. I haven't been able to corroborate it yet, and I've tried. But several people down there told me the same story. They said that what happened was there was a security guard at his building where he lived. And he said, okay, look, I'm going to leave this knife on the table here. And when my girlfriend gets here, I'm going to get her so mad that she's going to come at me with that knife. And when she does, would you please shoot her? Apparently he wanted to break up with her, but he figured that breaking up would be too painful or whatever. Somehow he got it in his head this was the easier way to do it. So she shows up. He gets her mad. She sees the knife. She grabs it, comes after him. The guy shoots her. She's dead. So they put Chip Whitmore on trial first. They find him guilty. They put him on death row in Huntsville. So the trial for the security guard comes up. While the security guard is on trial, one of the jurors has like a heart attack or a stroke or something and slumps over the banister. This guy apparently was a paramedic or something before. He was this security guard, so he ran over there, grabbed the person, boom, 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 got him going again, and brought this guy back.
Wow.
And the whole jury kind of went, "Aw," and they found him not guilty. When they found him not guilty, apparently Chip Whitmore said, "Hey, if he's not guilty, then neither am I." And apparently through some loophole, he got off of death row, and they told me that he got banished from the state of Texas. The state of Texas said, okay, look, you got away with this crap, but get the hell out of here. And apparently he owns a bunch of parking lots in Arkansas. This is the last I heard anyway.
Okay, hopefully he doesn't listen to the radio.
Well, this was like 20 years ago. He might be dead by now. Who knows? Yeah, but this was a story that I was told. As hard as it is for me to believe that story, on the flip side of all the stuff I've heard from Norman and the friends of Norman, it wouldn't surprise me the least bit if it were true. So
Yeah, I never heard that one.
yeah, and he was the same guy that leased that room to Norman that he didn't actually own that got Norman arrested. You know that, right?
Right.
Yeah, the one where Jack Carter bailed him out of jail.
Yeah.
Not that Jack Carter, but apparently another Jack Carter who was a big-time business owner who was a fan of the Ledge and read that he was in jail. So, yeah, all the stories I hear, I wouldn't be surprised if any of them were or were not true. Just nothing would surprise me at this point.
The one I remember, real quick, another Chip story. Norman went around town collecting box tops for some, remember that?
They were gas station rub-off
Yeah.
tickets or something, and you get a certain amount of them and you win.
Yeah, or
And he
you
won
get all the
$1,000.
pieces. He won $1,000, used it to buy a car, or most of it,
Right.
and then Chip, who was his manager at the time, figured, well, there's a chance for me to get some money out of Norman, or more money.
Right.
And he said, well, it's not good for your image to be driving, you know. People want to see the cowboy walking on foot. So just sell that car, give me the money, and I'll put you on an allowance. So, you know, he gave Norman like $50
That's what I heard. Yeah.
and kept all the rest.
Yeah. Oh, he was a nefarious character. I didn't talk to a single person down there who had anything positive to say about him.
Yeah, and these were crucial years in Ledge's career, because
Yeah.
this is pretty close to all the buzz around Paralyzed and the Laughing appearance had already happened. So these were really choice years to keep his career momentum going with more TV stuff and recordings, and being mixed up with Major Bill and for that long, and Chip really just wasted, I think, precious time.
It did. He met those people at the worst time in his career that he could have met them. You know, right at the point when he was probably the most. I don't want to use the word gullible, but I will. Probably at the point when he was the most naive about what he needed to do for his career. How about that?
Right, I would agree. I mean, Major Bill did get him, had something to do with getting him on Mercury and having the Paralyzed released on Mercury. But outside of that, everything else was detrimental to his career.
It really was. I can't think of too many performers whose career was so shaped by a series of bad luck. It was like a domino effect. It seems, you know.
Right.
You know, and that was the part of the story too that I found both fascinating and heartbreaking, was the fact that here was a person who on any normal level probably was not going to be a big star, and yet somehow he made it to about a half inch away from being a huge star, and then he just had it was like a rug just yanked out from underneath him, you know.
Right.
And he's never really talked deeply about it, but I'm sure that there are some deeply held resentments that would stem back to that when he thinks back of how close he came, and then just totally by not his fault, it was taken away. You know, nothing he did was detrimental to his career. It was everything around his career that was detrimental to his career.
Yeah, just bad luck. But he's always looking forward. You know, his perseverance is astounding. You know, most people I think would have just thrown in the towel at that point and, you know, got a job at working the drill press or whatever. But I think he still feels and is working towards that big break.
Yeah. Oh, he's got stick-to-itiveness like nobody's business.
It's unbelievable.
Yeah.
And, you know, and a large part of his act isn't an act. It's actually just him amplified.
Yes.
You know, when the Ledge he is who he is. You know, you see him on stage, you know, full of energy. You know, you see him, you go have lunch with him, you'll be entertained in a similar fashion. He just is who he is. I don't think he could do anything else at this point.
No, and I don't think he should. I mean, I think as long as he's got, I mean, look, even if his music career never takes off, he doesn't seem to mind this guard business too much. So, you know, if you find something that you don't hate to do and you can pay the bills doing it, you know, you're ahead of a lot of people.
Right. He's able to work a hard 40-hour week and still handle all his ledge business and recording sessions and record stuff and TV stuff. So I think he's doing a pretty darn good job.
Yeah.
He just needs some more lucky breaks, you know. And he's had a few. I think when Amazing Records put out Rocket to Stardom in 1985. Is that right?
Yeah.
That record is a real piece of work.
I love that record.
Just every track on each side, you know, the sequencing, it's just a masterpiece. You just never get tired of it.
No, I agree.
And Jim was I think he was a neat guy. He did a lot of great stuff. He got Norman to Australia, on TV in Australia. Got a huge fan base going.
Sure. I mean, plus he released the album, and that's, to me, that'd be enough right there. I mean, and I understand that Norman definitely has some sour feelings about Jim Yanaway, and I've never really been able to figure out exactly what it was, except that maybe the Ledge just doesn't feel like Jim did enough for him. Whereas when I talked to Jim, I mean, he's like, oh, well, you know, I did this, I did this, I did this, I did this, and you're finally going like, well, man, this guy really did put forth some effort, and now Norman, you know, hates him. And, you know, like I think I told you, I was kind of afraid that I was going to fall into that category, because, you know, there's sort of a list of people who either attempted to help or help Norman, who he now intensely dislikes, you know.
Yeah.
And so,
the judgment fell on Jim, and I'm not sure of the whole story. I think it might have just been frustration on both sides.
right.
You know, I wouldn't call it hatred. I would just call it maybe a dislike, you know.
Because Jim was very nice to us. He was as helpful as a person could be. He lent out a bunch of this stuff to us that he didn't have to. You know, he didn't have one sour word to say about Norman. He was complimentary the entire time that we were with him. So I'm thinking a lot of that ill will is one-sided, or at least that was the impression that I got. Because Jim didn't seem to have any sort of bitterness or rancor towards Norman at all.
Okay, yeah, that's good to hear. He loaned the master tapes for Rocket to Stardom for the Cherry Red record, and didn't ask for anything.
Yeah.
Which I thought was pretty cool. And yeah, God rest his soul, Jim Yanaway passed away in, I guess, 2014 or early 2015.
I think it was 2015. I think, but yeah. So I think we could probably wind this down now. Between what we got now and what we got earlier, we're a little slightly over an hour, and I think we got most of the information in here we need. If Norman feels like talking for the rest of the time I'm here, I can, but I don't know that. I'm not sure he really wanted to. I knew yesterday when he was so talkative, and we were talking at that restaurant and stuff. I'm like, oh man, I hope he's like this tomorrow. I hope he just jumps right in there But I think you said when the guys were interviewing him for the movie as well, he kind of petered out, didn't he?
Big time.
Yeah.
With both film crews, with the Mike Judge project, which was film also, even though they're going to animate it in the end. He crashed a couple of times, and they had to come back a second day. They were pretty grueling sessions. So, yeah, he might take a nap and call you in a couple of hours.
Yeah,
when he gets his second win. I noticed that Ledge kind of has his day is 12 hours long.
Mm-hmm.
He tends to get up after 4 hours of sleep, do a bunch of stuff, then sleep for another 4 hours, get up again, and then do a bunch of stuff. He's on kind of a weird sleep schedule.
I just recently heard about somebody who worked like that. I forget who it was. It was an artist. I think it was, I don't know, maybe Picasso or someone, that they did everything in. Oh no, it was a writer. It was a famous writer who I don't remember the name of it. He would get up in the morning, he would do whatever for 4 hours, then he would have a meal, and go back to bed for 4 hours, get up, do a bunch of stuff, have a meal, go back to bed for 4 hours, and he would do it in 4-hour intervals around the clock, which I guess could be done. That sounds startlingly like what Norman is doing. So yeah, actually what I'll do is I'm just going to go and fade this down now, but I'm going to leave this set up. And if he should decide, and I was, Eric?
Well, there you have it. I hope you got something out of it. I hope that if you were wondering about some things, maybe those questions got answered. I'm sorry I couldn't engage him a little further or a little longer, but the ledge is the ledge, and that's what happens. So anyway, like I say, this is going to be the last podcast probably until mid to late next month. By then I should have all my problems solved, and I've got another trip out west where hopefully I can snag some more interesting people to talk to. So until then, in the words of Norman Carl Odom, adios amigos.